Hello everyone, welcome to the first episode of It's a Wonderful Podcast in 2019. Yay, it's not 2019 right now, but this episode will be. Nolan, how was New Year's Day?
New Year's Day was great. I mean, so many great things happened.
On New Year's Day, like throwing up after New Year's Eve?
Oh no, I parasailed off my house.
Very interesting.
I jumped in my pool wearing my mother's bikini.
Understandable, yeah. That's another reasonable thing to happen.
We've got 2 weeks until Glass comes out.
Is that it?
Mm-hmm.
That's come around very soon. Wow, I didn't realise. That has shocked me. I knew it was soon. I didn't realise it was that soon. Why didn't I realise it was that soon? I should have done. Anyway, hello everyone.
Let's break the glass on this episode.
Let's break the... Perfect. Welcome to episode... what are we on now? 37?
30 something. We're nearly 40.
We are nearly 40 years old. No, we're not. 37 of It's a Wonderful Podcast, and only our second Western. What have we been doing?
Not been watching Westerns, clearly.
We've not... For some reason, we haven't been watching Westerns. Now, I like Westerns. Today, guys, we are talking about the... some would say the granddaddy of Westerns. Or some would say the the quintessential Western. The godfather of true American Westerns. Today, we are talking about Stagecoach from 1939. John Wayne's first star performance. Director John Ford's first huge Western success. And I thought this was kind of a great... I should talk more about Westerns on the show. I should pick them more for episodes. The fact that we have only done one up to this point, and that one was High Noon, which is a very different Western to... to be fair, High Noon is a very different Western to every other Western. But it is quite a different one to Stagecoach as well. But yes, Nolan, how, for those who may not have listened to the High Noon episode, I think we talked about this in that. It was so long ago. What are your general feelings towards Westerns in general?
I think Westerns are they're for the 30s what like blockbusters are to us now. They're just the kind of escapism for that time back then. You just go in, watch some bad guys, shoot some good guys, and vice versa, and then have a good time. But what I was not expecting with this one was all the other stuff.
All the other stuff. There's a I think this is what a lot of maybe sort of and again I don't want to say this in any sort of like I'm looking down at other people. I don't want to say this in any sort of arrogant way, but like surface level Western fans, and I put myself like just below that. Like, I don't have a deep knowledge of Westerns. I'm not coming in pretending I'm the god of all Westerns. I'm not. But I enjoy Westerns more than a sort of surface level enjoyment of Westerns. And I realise that it isn't just a genre full of, gunfights. It's not just a genre full of cowboy heroes riding around shooting Native Americans. It's just not that. There are, of course, there is that in certain Westerns, and there is that in this particular Western. But there is so many themes in Westerns about life, about human beings, about personal relationships, about America itself. There is no more American genre than the Western, in terms of what the world sees America as, or the US as.
I just imagined a British Western, and I want to get that out of my head right now.
Well, it wouldn't exist. It wouldn't exist because Britain doesn't have the same values that American has. Traditional American values are very much about owning. They're very much about owning things. It's a very capitalist way of thinking. Of course, which of course it is. America is the world's great capitalist nation. Think of that what you will, but it is a fact, and Westerns show that. A lot of Westerns show it in different ways, but basically I think Westerns in general boil down to two types: the lone wolf Western and the community-based Western. The lone wolf Western, High Noon, is an example of both, which is why it's so interesting, because it's in a community and you think it would be a community Western at the start, and then the community doesn't rally behind Gary Cooper in that situation, and it turns into a lone wolf Western. Something, the Clint Eastwood spaghetti Westerns are very, very lone wolf Western.
Man with no name and that all kind of stuff.
Man with no name. It's just about a guy going around doing his own thing. Stagecoach is about a group of people and their relationships with each other. There's no one central character to Stagecoach. It's like the Magnificent Seven or something like that. There is no one central character. It's about the community, and again, it's the idea of building a community which is integral to sort of very, very traditional American values. Because they had to conquer the West. That's what, their goal was, and create settlements. The farther and farther west they went. So it's all about the owning of that land and the creating of a community. And what good Westerns do is always find a way of looking at those themes within their story, within their characters, if not directly, in a lot of ways, where you will find like railroads being built in certain Westerns because that's the story of that Western, because that's what was happening. It's why I sort of like Westerns, because of that reason. And I realise that was quite a long ramble, but
I was just enjoying the intelligence being presented there by that long ramble.
I'm not sure if there was so much intelligence as much as complete ramble, but I hope I got my point across somewhat. But yeah, that is why I like Westerns. That is why I'm kind of drawn to Westerns, even though because it is a very traditional film type. But funnily enough, I like older movies because they have these sort of things in them, and I like the USA as a country for all its flaws, and I like learning about certain. I like learning about history. Westerns are also historical films.
I can confirm that Morgan loves the USA, because when he's in the shower, he doesn't sing. He just yells, USA, USA.
No, I actually sing the Star Spangled Banner.
Of course you do.
Over and over and over again. I don't sing, my own national anthem. For one, because I hate my own national anthem so much. It's such a garbage national anthem. But yeah, anyway, we're not here to talk about national anthems. Nolan, Stagecoach, what are your feelings towards it in a general way?
Well, I've robbed many stagecoaches whilst playing Red Dead Redemption.
Understandable.
But this, because I was expecting a lot of the gunfight stuff, and you don't really get a lot of that here. This is more, to me, it's got more in common with something like Murder on the Orient Express than like a traditional Western, where you put a bunch of characters in one setting and they use it kind of to establish class. And what was interesting here was the good guys were technically the bad guys, and the bad guys were treated like the protagonists. The outlaw and the prostitute character are treated like the heroes, whereas everyone else who have these attitudes of like, oh, if it makes the bank happy, it makes the country happy, they're treated as the villains. And I found that really interesting. Plus, I always like going back to seeing how big stars kind of got their debuts.
Yeah.
And seeing this for John Wayne and giving him such a interesting character to play as opposed to what I've kind of known him as. It was pretty refreshing. And yeah, I would say I would definitely like this movie. I imagine you loved the grainy way it was shot.
Of course I did. And I mean, John Ford is... You say the word Western and you immediately think of John Ford, and if you don't think of the name John Ford, you think of shots that John Ford put in his movies.
Yeah, I could agree with
because
that.
There are so many. It's shot so phenomenally, like all John Ford westerns are. But this one is just, like I said, because it's such an early one, in this type of movie. It does have Monument Valley is just, that's where westerns are set, but westerns weren't set there before Stagecoach.
Yeah.
You know, it's the first of all these things
here for like other movies.
There
like,
is.
There's
so many.
The guy getting run over by the stagecoach,
which is a wonderful piece of stunt work.
I've seen that in Raiders of the Lost Ark, like in Maverick, things like that. John Wayne jumping from one horse to another, then jumping to another horse. The voice of Friar Tuck driving the stagecoach.
Yeah. Oh God. It's just cool. It's just it's cool. It's very. Yeah. Okay. You can make the argument that it's white man the hero, but
isn't that like every western?
But it is.
That's like every western besides Django Unchained.
Yeah. But also, I mean, that it's also why I in terms of the whole genre of westerns, I gravitate towards the spaghetti westerns more, because they are more ambiguous with who a hero is and who a villain is. Like, they're all bad people in spaghetti westerns to a point, and it's more interesting in that sense to see them play off each other, see what each of them do. This is a very, this is the good people, this is the bad people type western. Which it's not a bad thing, because it's done in such a way that that works. It's successful in what it does, and it captures what it does really well. It's those who argue that it is like a white savior type thing, and it's not necessarily because, like, I don't know what I'm trying to say at the minute. I do not know what I am trying to say. I just don't want people to look at westerns as an old stuffy type set in their ways genre, because it's just trying to capture a certain essence. It's not ramming politics down your throat. It's just presenting it. Yeah, it's just presenting it, and like I said, it's a very American type thing. So it is all built on community. It's built on self gain. It's personal stories of dreaming and the journey to get somewhere, which is all, which you see in throughout American film history. But I mean, this movie itself has a journey in it. That's the point of the movie, is a journey from one location to another location. Just so happens that they're going through particularly dicey territory.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be riding that stagecoach.
No, I mean, what would you want to ride a stagecoach at all? I think I would quite like to make a living riding stagecoaches. It's just like a much cooler form of taxi.
Do they still have stagecoaches?
I mean, you can get like a horse and cart at Disneyland.
It's not
Could
really
I
the
just
same.
do that?
It's not really the same thing, though, is it?
No, it's not the same. I don't think they still have stagecoaches.
Mickey Mouse
Why?
isn't going to come out and start trying to hold you up. Although if he
No.
does, that would be quite interesting.
Disneyland would not allow such things to happen. Imagine if there is a knockoff Disneyland somewhere where Mickey Mouse and Goofy and Minnie Mouse and everyone else just is evil. Imagine if that was a thing.
And I
don't
like
know.
that Stagecoach came out in another great year for movies.
Oh, a fantastic year for movies. I mean, the last movie we talked about was from 1939 as well.
Also, The Wizard of Oz, Gone with the Wind, Of Mice and Men.
There's a lot of 1939 is a very, very good year.
Mr.
It's a
Smith
very,
Goes to
very good
Washington was another one.
Yeah, it's a really, really good year. I just like how I don't know. I love going back to the firsts of things on this show. It's what I love doing like a lot. And I like everything we do on this show, but going back to like the true, this is really where major Western films started, and that's just impressive to look at.
You like seeing the origin story of certain genres.
I like seeing the origin of genres. It's the same with horror, as many people know. I love going back and watching old horror, like the short movies that were made in the 1890s of horror, like whatever they are. It's just like the Devil's Castle and stuff, because it's just really interesting to see the start of certain things.
Can you remind me what the name of the high-class woman in this movie was?
Oh, yeah, I should know. But there are like 9 people, I think.
Yeah, it's definitely an ensemble cast.
On this journey. They are traveling. Basically, they are traveling through Apache country, which is, obviously Native Americans, and Native Americans don't want these people in their land, rightly so, to be honest.
The Mrs. Mallory, that was her name.
Mrs. Mallory, yes.
And one of the things that I really connected to here was the kind of relationship between her and Dallas, the prostitute character.
Yeah.
Mrs. Mallory comes from high class. She's a socialite. She's probably like these people that I serve gin and tonics to on the weekends.
Quite possibly. Yeah.
And she's incredibly stuck up and like hateful, whereas Dallas, who's kind of a tragic character, forced into something like that for her whole life, but still to see her being like so kind and understanding, I love that dynamic.
Yeah, I did think their relationship was a particularly strong arc of the movie, especially when we get to the end and they are much more, I don't know what the word is, they're much more friendly with each other.
Yeah, they've grown each other.
Yeah, because they've been on this journey. It's the idea of, like, I love movies like this where they stick people together that may not like each other, but if they go on a shared journey, they find mutual respect for each other, and are then, very they then go off on their own way of life, whatever that is, but all the while knowing that, John Wayne and what's his name, the Marshal.
I've got the cast list up here.
Yeah. Oh dear God. This is going really well. This is
Marshall
going really
Curly Wilcox.
Curly. Yeah.
Ugh.
The Marshal, obviously he's very familiar with John Wayne because John Wayne plays the Ringo Kid, a famous gunslinger.
The Ringo Kid is such a cool name.
It is. But but he arrested John Wayne at some point in the past, right? Great. Okay, that's where they start off. John Wayne has his rifle spinning introduction. That is one of the most famous, big movie star introductions of all time. Really, is John Wayne stood there spinning his rifle. But yeah, and they obviously go through the film together, and at the end, when you think John Wayne's going to get arrested now, and he's sort of okay with it, because him and the Marshal have developed this mutual respect for each other over the course of the film, but then instead the Marshal just lets him go.
He rides off into the plains.
And he just rides off with Dallas, who he has obviously grown to love throughout the course of the film as well. And it's a really pleasant ending to this movie.
I like that kind of star-crossed lovers thing. Like, they both came from probably bad backgrounds.
Yeah.
And they find a kindred spirit in one another.
Yeah, it's nice. It's a nice relationship. Again, I think all the relationships are really, really good, to be honest. All the cast does a really great job. I know that Thomas Mitchell, who played the Doctor, won a Best Supporting Oscar for
well-deserved one.
This movie. And for those who don't know, Thomas Mitchell was Uncle Billy in It's a Wonderful Life. So yeah, that's why I particularly am a fan of that man. But Dallas and Ringo, their relationship at the end, it's nice to see them able to have a happy ending, like you said, because they have both clearly had very tough lives, and this particular Stagecoach journey has been quite life-changing for them. Dallas obviously getting out of the town, and Ringo obviously being met on the way there, on the way on the journey, a little bit into it, but almost coming on as sort of protection in a way.
I get that,
because he was like, you're going into Apache country. You're not gonna pull through this without me. So up steps John Wayne, and there you go. That's that. But yeah, it is nice to see them have a happy ending, because again, that is a very American thing. You go on a journey and it all turns out okay, because that is the American dream. It all turns out okay. Where do they go at the end? They go to a ranch to live in their own property with their own livelihood, and it's just very, very, it's very American.
Until some people in 1956 might come and search for them.
The Searchers is one we should do.
Oh,
I'm into that.
Searchers,
I like
Rio
Searchers.
Bravo, I definitely think we'll get to those.
Rio Bravo is great. Rio Bravo is, for a bit of a tangent, Rio Bravo is actually really entertaining as well. It is very much a blockbuster western, because like Dean Martin's in it as well, and it's more so than something like this, or something like High Noon, which is a smaller type movie, still with these really interesting themes to it, still with these cool things to say, and very iconic imagery, and the score in Stagecoach as well.
Oh, it's so exciting.
Especially during the chase scene where the Apaches eventually find this lone stagecoach just riding through the vast desert, and they're up on that hill, and you see the shot of them up on that hill, and they're going to attack right now, and they attack, and it's everything just goes like that, and it's so fast paced, and the music kicks in, and I don't know how impressive it was for them to film that in 1939 with the horses travelling at that speed.
Would have been very difficult.
The stunt work that's involved there, the camera work that's involved there, it's so impressive. And again, the most impressive stunt of them all is that one guy who ends up, falling off a horse, being trampled by all the horses, and then running under the stagecoach itself, which you likened to Indiana Jones before, which is, of course, correct.
Raiders definitely took inspiration from that.
It is. It's exactly the same. But yeah, I loved that fight so much. That almost climactic, really intense scene that was it was the culmination of their physical journey that the stagecoach itself was going on, and a lot of sort of character climaxes as well, because everybody after this film is basically, it's what happens before that attack and what happens after that attack, and that attack happens a little over 2/3 of the way through, probably. But yeah, after that they realise that they've all been on this shared journey, they've all had this shared experience, and they grow more respect for each other. And that's nice to see. It's kind of an idealistic thing. But again, that is very American. To be idealistic and to dream is very American.
Yeah, I can definitely see that, and I like that it's not cynical about it.
Not at all.
Because I get a sense of mean-spiritedness from other westerns.
How so?
How gritty and sometimes unforgiving they can be, and the sort of every man for himself kind of angle is something that I associate with a lot of them. It's usually why I don't connect to them very much, but with this one it was different.
Yeah, I mean, that's the sort of lone wolf type western you're talking about. The Clint Eastwood western is what you're talking about, where everybody's just kind of evil and everybody's very, very, very selfish and doing everything for themselves, just killing people at will. They don't care.
Murdering everyone.
But yeah, I mean, and it's funny because obviously the Clint Eastwood is more of a spaghetti western, which are a European influenced western. It's not an American film. You need to look at more true American. You need to look at more John Ford, true American westerns about family and about community and about stuff like that. I think we should do a lot more. Definitely The Searchers and stuff like that.
Might even get my dad to watch this show then.
I'm just saying. I think that's your subgenre of western, as opposed to more stylish sort in the spaghetti western, or even just a regular lone wolf western, because you still get lone wolf westerns in the American western. But the community is where you should go, I think. But I want to hear some more from you about certain what's your sort of favourite, I mean, not necessarily favourite, but what do you think is the most successful, either character arc or just some more stuff you happen to enjoy about this movie?
The stuff that connected most to me was Dallas and Ringo, because it's really easy for me to root for a good guy doing a good thing, or a good guy who doesn't know his way trying to do a good thing. But to present archetypes who are seen as usually evil and then show that they can also inspire goodness in others, that's really tricky to pull off. I'm looking at this from a writer perspective.
Yeah.
And this one does it so well. Like we've talked about that final scene with them riding off into the sunset.
Yeah.
And the way that, like, even I could watch a whole movie of them just sitting down at dinner, like when they stop at that little restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
It almost felt like this movie didn't really need the action stuff for it to be engaging for me. It was that was like the icing on the cake.
It was. I think it's also why this one sort of stands above a lot more. Of course, it was the first as well, but it is why it's remembered, because it does have this very human story to it, but also is really entertaining to watch, especially in that one huge action scene. And I don't know how much John Wayne you have delved into in your life.
I know of the man. I haven't watched a lot of his movies.
So what do you make of him in Stagecoach? Because this is kind of an unusual performance in terms of John Wayne, because obviously he's a lot younger here than people usually picture him. He's a lot more sort of, not necessarily, he's a lot more sort of charmingly heroic rather than stoically heroic, like he often is in his later films. But yeah, what do you make of John Wayne?
Well, seeing as this is technically the first time I've seen him in a movie, and this was his debut role.
I mean, it's his debut it's what made him a huge star. He was in a lot of B movies before this, but this is
so like his breakout role.
Yeah, it's his breakout role.
Well, even then, it would have been the first time I would have seen him.
Yeah.
Damn impressed, because the guy can take the sort of outlaw kid archetype, who's usually a massive dickhead in these kind of movies.
Yeah.
And make him somewhat charming and likable.
Yeah, that's why I said it's really interesting to see, because it's interesting to see the sort of characters that John Wayne would go on to play. They're almost mentors to these type of characters. I'm thinking Rio Bravo right now.
And it feels cool because he's like the originator of that role.
Yeah, kind of. Really, really kind of, yeah. Which again is really interesting to actually think about when you do picture John Wayne as this sort of slow, grisly type mentor figure who gets the job done, but also, isn't so boisterous and erratic. Not that he's like that in this movie, but it's definitely more prevalent than in something like Rio Bravo, or God forbid, something like True Grit, where he's just a grizzled old man.
I do love True Grit, to be fair.
Yeah. But John Wayne does come under some scrutiny for his acting being wooden. What do you make of that?
I don't agree with that.
I don't agree with that either.
When people say that, I think what they really mean is he only really plays one type of character.
Which, yeah, is true, especially in his later movies.
Which, fair enough, I do like actors with more range, but you can't deny the guy's good at what he does.
Oh, he is. He's perfect at what he does. He was perfect at what he does. I think
John Wayne's a movie star actor.
He is. Of course he is. He is an iconic hero of movie history. He just is. Nobody looks better in a cowboy hat, for lack of a better word, than John Wayne. Not even Clint Eastwood, or Charles Bronson, or Henry Fonda, Jimmy Stewart, however many other huge Western stars there were. But what I see as, what some people may see as wooden from John Wayne, I just see as stoic. He's a calm presence. It's his voice as well. His voice is so iconic.
Break out the impression. I know you want to.
That's what I'm saying. It warrants an impression, but I'm not sure I have a good enough John Wayne impression.
Do it.
I don't have a good enough John Wayne impression. I'm going to disappoint everybody. I need to work. My John Wayne impression is actually a lot worse than my Clint Eastwood impression. My Clint Eastwood impression isn't bad. But I am still getting over a cold. So I'm not cracking out the impression just yet, guys. I do apologise. But yeah, John Wayne's voice is very... Because it's very slow. And it's very...
stoic.
It's very stoic. You listen to every word he says. Because you can't help but listen to every word he says. And yeah, sure, sometimes westerns, like I was trying to say before, can be a bit kill the Indians, which is, yeah, okay, there's some sort of issue there.
There was one thing I saw in the trivia part where I think a lot of fans were asking, why didn't the Indians just shoot the horses on the stagecoach?
At this point, you're nitpicking.
But the director had a really good comeback to that, because they wanted the coach and the horses.
Of course they did.
They're not just and besides, don't shoot the horses. The horses didn't do anything.
Well, the reason you shoot a horse is to get the rider off the horse.
I don't even shoot horses in Red Dead. That's cruel.
You're just linking everything back to Red Dead, and I love it.
I just shoot the riders.
But you have to admit that it would be easier to shoot the rider if he was off the horse.
Not if you're a good shot.
Not if you're a good shot, but maybe the natives weren't, maybe the Apaches weren't necessarily good shots. I don't know how, for example, familiar they were with the guns they were using. They may have stolen those guns from somewhere. They may have killed another, they may have robbed another stagecoach.
There is no need for innocent horses to be harmed, even if you're an outlaw.
There's no need for innocent Native Americans to be harmed, but they were.
There's no need for innocent anybody to be harmed.
No, that's very true.
Stop harming people.
Stop harming people, the world. For God's sake. Stop harming people, Western heroes.
Oh, them damn Western heroes.
They do like killing native people, though. They just objectively do enjoy that sort of stuff. And yes, it is a problem. But there are plenty of other things to enjoy about westerns that don't involve such things.
Indeed.
And being, speaking for the Apaches, they get some nice kills in there as well.
Yeah.
One in particular, which is to Hastings, I believe his name is, who is played by John Carradine, who people will know from certain horror movies. He's kind of a little bit of a horror icon. And I'm going to add him to the Mustache Hall of Fame just quickly now, Nolan.
Mustache Hall of Fame theme song, bring it on.
Mustache Hall of Fame, Hall of Fame, Hall of Fame, Hall of Fame for mustaches. Mustache. Welcome, John Carradine, to the Mustache Hall of Fame for your role as Hastings in Stagecoach. Applause.
I have some trivia here.
Some trivia of Stagecoach.
But seeing as I've really said all I can about the narratives and the themes and the characters of this movie that I can say, because it's look,
again, it's not a complex movie. No. It's a movie that knows what it's going for. It just does it so well that's what is impressive about it, rather than the way it does it. It's the fact that in such a time in cinema history for this genre as we know it to basically be born with this movie, and it just to capture it so well that is what's so impressive about Stagecoach, rather than the complexity of it, because it isn't.
Right. Now, do you happen to know what kind of accent John Ford had?
John Ford? I don't know where John Ford was from, actually. Where was John Ford?
I was just assuming that he's a classic American kind of guy.
I am going to have a look at where John Ford was from. Because John Ford... I don't know where John Ford was from. Why doesn't it say where... Oh, John Ford was from Maine.
From Maine, I see.
So it's like Stephen King country, weirdly enough.
So, John Ford apparently liked to bully actors on this set.
Of course he did.
At one point, he said to Andy Devine,
who played the Stagecoach driver.
And also went on to be Friar Tuck. Now, this is quite unpleasant, but here we are.
Okay, let's have it.
You big tub of lard. I don't know why the hell I'm using you in this picture. But Devine replied, because Ward Bond can't drive 6 horses. You dick.
I like it.
Also,
because Ward Bond... Was Ward Bond even in this movie?
Also, he called John Wayne a big oaf and a dumb bastard.
Who did? John Ford?
Yeah.
That's insane. Why was John Ford so cruel?
And, that's not even the worst of it.
Okay, keep going.
He also grabbed one of the cast members by the chin and asked, why are you moving your mouth so much? Don't you know you don't act with your mouth in pictures, you act with your eyes?
I mean, I like that. I appreciate that from John Ford.
And my favourite of them all,
okay,
Louise Platt, who played Miss Mallory, the very high-class woman.
Yes.
She observed John Wayne on the set one day, and then
Yes.
turned to Claire Trevor and said, I think he has the most beautiful buttocks I have ever seen.
John Wayne. I can't admit to having looked at John Wayne's behind for so long, to be honest with you. I like that a lot. I didn't realise John Ford was so horrible.
He seems like he was a bit of a egomaniac.
Looking at a picture of John Ford now, and I advise everybody to now Google a picture of John Ford. He doesn't look overly cruel. But
does he have dark hair?
He does have dark hair. He's also... He does wear glasses. I don't know.
He's probably bullied in school.
I mean, I don't want to... I don't want to pin loads of blame on John Ford, because John Ford, frankly, is one of, cinema's great directors.
He looks like a creepy science teacher.
He kind of does. That is kind of exactly what he looks like. But he is undoubtedly one of film history's great directors, and a lot of the people that would come under that have been known to be kind of horrible to their actors in one way or another. But
Kubrick.
Exactly, cough Kubrick. But hell, John Ford made successful movies. John Wayne worked with him again and again, so they must have liked each other somewhat, or at least, or maybe John Ford was just showing him a bit of tough love to build John Wayne into the star he would become. Maybe we can just see it like that.
Now, you mentioned that there's a colour remake of this.
Is there?
Yeah, there's a film remake of this in colour.
In colour?
And there's also a made-for-TV one from 1986. I don't really see this... I don't see this getting, like, the Coen Brothers True Grit treatment.
No. Oh, yeah, oh, no, that's in... I see there's one from 1966. There is here one from 1986, which would be what you're talking about, I think, with Johnny Cash.
Oh, God.
Willie Nelson, Chris Christopherson, and Johnny Cash, Waylon Jennings. Did they just get a load of country stars? They literally got country stars to play in this movie. This is a TV movie, but it is Stagecoach.
If they did it now, they could get McConaughey.
That's insane. Look, I mean, it's not a difficult movie to remake if they wanted to remake it, because it is so simple. But what makes it special is everything coming together in a successful way, from a performance, from a story standpoint, a character arc standpoint, a cinematography standpoint, musical score, just everything coming together. I mean, I can't get over the beauty of the way this movie is shot. It makes you just want to go to Monument Valley and just ride a horse around. It just makes you want to do that because it's just so beautiful and stunning to look at. And that's just nature. That's just something that is there. That is just
in my
perfect
case, it
on
makes me
location
want to
shots.
go explore more of Red Dead 2.
All that, which you should do. Admittedly, you should explore all of the map of that particular video game. But yeah, that's what is so great about Stagecoach, and it's why it could be remade, but you would have to. Yeah, I think the True Grit remake is good. I enjoy the True Grit remake. I think it's a really good updating of it while still keeping it in that very much feel. You could do the same thing with something like Stagecoach today. I don't know if it has been done. Not that I've heard of. Certainly not on a big scale. But it is possible to be done. But then again, I'm thinking to myself, just make an original Western. Because that can also be done. You
It's
just
more
call
likely
it
to get a
something new.
Western TV show nowadays than a new Western movie.
I mean,
Unless it's like a big name director doing it. I don't see it. Even Hateful Eight, I don't think made too much.
No, but again, like, Hateful Eight is a very different style of Western. And stuff like it's incomparable to something like Stagecoach or something like The Searchers.
It has a Stagecoach in it.
It has a Stagecoach in it, but it's so incomparable. That's why I think Westerns is a very worthwhile genre, because there are so many different varieties. For a genre that seems like everything's the same movie over and over again, it's just, oh, this guy shoots this guy, he's won the film. Yay. There's so much variety in Westerns. There is so much, and I think people should delve into it more. I'd love to delve way more into more Westerns on this show. I've enjoyed this conversation on Stagecoach today. I loved our conversation on High Noon as well, because that is such a unique Western. Mm-hmm. I just wanted to kick 2019 off right with the first true American Western. And I would like to do a Western genre month, as we have been known to do in the past.
We could do that for summer. I mean, Westerns are hot, I imagine.
Well, that's true. Unless they're not. Unless they are the Hateful Eight, in which case it's in a snowstorm.
Yeah, that's not great. I wouldn't want to be in a snowstorm Western. I don't want to be in a snowstorm anyway. Snowstorms suck.
Yeah, they do. But sandstorms suck as well.
Yes, they do.
As do dust storms and rainstorms.
Any
other storm. Apart from a brainstorm. Brainstorms are quite useful.
Yes. Or a storm of flavour in a particular dish.
A storm of flavour.
I don't know if anyone's ever used that. I just made that up.
I think you have just made that up. But I like it. Nolan, do you have anything else to say about Stagecoach before we leave it? Are you pleased you watched this film?
Very much so. I can finally talk to movies with my dad now.
Well, that's something.
My dad's a big Western fan, so I'm down for doing more Westerns, and that's why I think for our next pick...
Okay, are we saying our next pick right now?
Yeah, why don't we...
Okay, let's do it then.
Why don't we head to the old town of Rio Bravo?
Why don't we do another Western? Why don't we start January off and do 2 Westerns back to back? Rio Bravo, let's do it.
Mm-hmm.
Let's do it. Very excited for that. Very excited for more westerns. Rio Bravo has a load more themes to it.
And a scene with fire pokers, which I've heard's really good.
Yes, because there's a few different characters, all with their own little character types, and it's so great. Dean Martin, especially, is wonderful in Rio Bravo. Truly. So, that is what we will be doing next week. This week, we had a nice little discussion on Stagecoach. I enjoyed this episode. I don't think I made myself look as much of a fool as I did in the last episode, but I don't know, maybe other people think I did, in which case, let me know. Tell me I'm garbage. You can do that if you want.
Jeez. So hard on yourself. So hard on yourself.
Maybe I am. I don't know. Anyway, guys, Nolan, what's 2019 gonna look like for you?
Well, I'm heading far from home. I'm looking forward to that.
Oh, for God's sake!
I'm down for that fishbowl head, Jake Gyllenhaal. That's gonna be my 2019.
Oh, that's gonna be all year for you.
Yep.
Or
2019 for me
year.
is Jake Gyllenhaal in a fishbowl head.
Fair enough. 2019 for me is many more episodes of It's a Wonderful Podcast. And all the wonderful stuff that comes with it. All the discovering of new movies like Stagecoach, like any more westerns we end up doing, and plenty more wacky variety of genres that we do on this, from all periods as long as it's relatively old. Because we like relatively old movies, Nolan, if you hadn't noticed by episode 37. Yeah.
Speaking of relatively old, Raoul, you should probably watch this movie as well and give more westerns a shot. I don't know if he's a big western fan.
There is a Mexican gentleman in Stagecoach.
But I didn't just mention Raoul for that odd reference. What I've been doing this week is actually because of Raoul. He'll be happy. I finally started watching more of Gravity Falls. So
oh, okay.
He'll be very happy about
that as well, actually. Raoul, of course, introduced me to that show, and it's a wonderful show. It's like a shockingly good show. So yeah, it's quick binge as well, so you'll get through it.
It's very Lord and Millery, like with the humor in it.
Okay, I get that to a point, but no, that's a really smart show, and yeah, I'm kind of glad you're watching that. Guys, that was episode 37 of It's a Wonderful Podcast on Stagecoach. You can follow the show on Twitter at It's a Wonderful One. Use the hashtag It's a Wonderful One to talk to us about the show, and let us know what you think. Let us know if a Western month, in terms of one of these genre months that we like to do sometimes, would be something you would be interested in, because I think we certainly are. You can find the show on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, Stitcher, Castbox, Podbean, and certain other places you can find audio podcasts as well. But please leave those nice 5-star reviews, and we will read them out on the show with a huge thank you if that does happen. What else can you do? I suppose you can follow me on Twitter at the Purple Don with a 3 instead of the E in there, because 3 is the magic number. Follow Nolan on Twitter at
NolanDean27, because 2 and 7 make 9, and it's 2019.
Perfect. And guys, yeah, I as I always do, I'm just gonna say Happy New Year to everybody. I hope 2019 brings you a fulfillment of your dreams, much like John Wayne and Dallas, who is played by, I should bring this up, Dallas is played by someone called Claire Denver, maybe. I'm just going to keep going until I get the name. Is it Claire Denver? No, it isn't. What's her name? I'm keeping going. This hasn't ended yet.
Someone
Oh my
make
God.
someone make a remix
Claire
of this.
Trevor.
Claire Trevor
played Dallas. I hope all your dreams in 2019 come true, like John Wayne and Claire Trevor at the end of Stagecoach. Guys, bye from me. Nolan, see us out.
I guess you could say that 2019 started off with a